Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the FireMage. Quick little preview, quick little intro guide. Like I said, I'm going to be making more comprehensive guides, as the expansion comes out, but this is a sort of an intro guide for people just getting into Mage. First, before I get into, all the little details of FireMage, I kind of wanted to just talk about races. Like I've said before, I don't think races matter as much as people like to think. If you really want to min-max in PvP, I think Orc for Horde is going to be the best race. So if you want to do that, you can for the stun reduction as well. Blood Fury is really strong with secondary stats being nerfed. The intellect buff is very desirable. I went Troll just because I wanted to. I like the haste buff. I like the Voodoo Shuffle. I think it's fun. But some of the other races you can play, if you are PvEer, Nightborn is going to be really strong. And this is something I didn't talk about in my Frost video. But some of the Alliance races I think will be good. I think Human will be good. I think Gnome could be good for kiting with the Escape Artist. And then actually for Alliance, all the allied races seem very good. The Dark Iron Dwarf, the Lightforged Draenei, and the Void Elf are all very good. So you can kind of decide which one you want. All of them are viable. None of those are gonna deny you pushing rating. But yeah, we'll have to see if it would, if I absolutely wanted to min-max, if I was playing a tournament in threes, I'd probably most likely be playing the Orc, the Void Elf, maybe Lightforged Draenei in some situations, and the Dark Iron Dwarf. So those are my preferences, just depending on what you're doing. But I'm a troll, so let's jump in really quick, and we can go over Fire. I'm going to be going over talents really quick. Stat priorities that I've been having while playing on the beta. My rotation. As well as some of the different compositions. If you guys played FireMage and Legion, it's very similar. There's not a whole lot of differences, to be completely honest with you. So, yeah, maybe this guide you are not going to learn anything from it. But, yeah, we will see. The 15 row, all three of these are viable. Firestarter is viable, Pyromaniac's viable, Searing Touch is viable. If you want to be more powerful during the execute phase, Searing Touch. If you want to be more powerful during the middle of the fight, Pyromaniac. If you want to be more powerful at the beginning of the fight, go Firestarter. It really, to me, comes down to that. For the most part, I like a nice balance, so I go with Pyromaniac, so I get those additional procs throughout the entire fight, not just the beginning, not just the end, but throughout all of it. So that's my logic. That's why I like it. Middle row, you have Blastwave, Shimmer, and Blazing Soul. I've mostly only been playing with Shimmer. I think it's just so valuable, for getting crowd control, for getting around. Maybe in certain situations, Blast Wave could be good, but the knock on it is just so bad. It is a very powerful snare, so that might be able to get utilized that way. And also I could see in like Mythic Plus, interrupting mobs with the Blast Wave with the knock could be strong as well. Moving forward, Encounter Soul, Mirror Image, Rune of Power. I don't think Mirror Images is as good for Fire and Arcane as it is for Frost, just because the Frostbolt snare and Mirror Images for Fire, it's a little extra damage, but they don't really snare. It could be good for keeping rogues in combat. If you really have a difficult time getting off damage, it probably will be more valuable than Encounter's Flow, but I don't really play with Mirror Images that much as Fire, just because, like I said, you only get that added benefit of keeping someone snared, which is, to me, the annoying part of playing against Mirror Images, and that's why I like having it as a Frost Mage, but as Fire, not as good. Mostly playing with Encounter's Flow. The next row, Flame On, Shaz's Fury, and Phoenix Flames. For generating Pyro procs, I really like Phoenix Flames. Apparently in PvE, you mostly play Flame On. So, yeah, maybe that's something you want to check out. Shaz's Fury, not necessarily as good, but I just feel like I can get more procs out and more burst damage with Phoenix Flames, generating me critical strikes and, heating up in Pyro procs, which are really good. For the 75 row, Ring of Frost, Ice Ward, Frenetic Speed. I basically always play Ring of Frost. Like I kind of mentioned in Frost Mage video, I just think the utility of Ring of Frost is really good, where you can get double crowd control out. If you're going for a sheep on the healer, you get interrupted and you can Ring of Frost him. Really good. Following that Ring of Frost, you can polymorph another DPS, and now all of a sudden you have a Ring of Frost on one person, a polymorph on another person. 3v1 situation, that's ideal while playing a mage. It's also just, you can drop Ring of Frost out of Dragon's Breath if like a melee's on you. That way you don't reset his HP. You know what I mean? So like, let's say there's a warrior all over you and you're in a little bit of trouble. You kind of want to reset the fight, but you don't want to reset his HP. Instead of using Dragon's Breath Polymorph, you can Dragon's Breath Ring of Frost him. His HP is not going to reset. You can gain distance and you can start fighting again, which is really strong. So Mostly my preference is Ring of Frost, but I could see the value in the sprint on frenetic speed, double Nova sometimes as well, but I just, yeah, I find myself basically every game playing Ring of Frost. Next up, Flame Patch, Conflagration, and Living Bomb. In Arena, none of these are really that great, to be completely honest with you. I could play most games with none of these talents, and I don't think it would impact the end of the game. Living Bomb can be strong. I personally like Living Bomb the most because you control it the most. I don't really use my Flame Strike, so Flame Patch is essentially useless. Conflagration is just complete RNG, ignites and flare-ups and breaking crowd control, so I never play it. Living Bomb, at the very least, you can just not use it. You know what I mean? There's no negative to having Living Bomb. And, if your crowd control breaks, your sheeps on the healer are done and you want to get some damage out, or maybe you want to swap to the healer, the Living Bomb is a little bit of extra damage. It's nothing crazy. I think it can be good in RBGs. It can be good in, in Battlegrounds. In World PvP, where you're not really worried about breaking crowd control, it could be strong. My logic is there's no downside of having Living Bomb. It's the most control out of, the random AoEs, which I think is good. Meteor, Pyroclasm, Kindling. I always play Meteor for PvP. Fun ability. You try to isolate someone with it. If you can just hit one target with your Meteor, it's going to do more damage than splitting it on multiple people. The little burn patch on the ground is also decent. But the big burst, if you get a Combust with a Meteor on someone who's all alone, that Meteor hits very, very, very hard. So keep that in mind if you're trying to edge the spell. You know what I mean? Trying to edge it just to get one person in isolation who's in a stun. It is going to do a lot of damage. People asking about Pyroclasm. Not a fan. If I want to hard cast, basically with Pyroclasm, if I want to hard cast big Pyroblasts, then I could go Greater Pyro instead. If I'm in a situation where I can get those hard casted Pyroblasts off, with a 4-second cast time, I would rather just have Greater Pyro. The only benefit of Pyroclasm is that it puts up Ignite. So if you get a Pyroclasm crit and you have controlled burn, that Ignite is going to do so much damage so quickly. But it's one of those things where the stars have to align, and it's just ultimately too frustrating for me to even attempt to get that off. Maybe in large-scale PvP, world PvP, you can do it. I don't like it, but go for it. You know what I mean? And Kindling is mostly just I'd say a PvE talent. I don't really mess with it too much. I just like Meteor so much as a spell. I don't really like playing without it. But yeah. Next up, we'll go over the PvP talents. PvP talents. This is what I roll with normally. Tinder, Temporal Shield. Tinder for the Fast Fireball. Fast Fireball makes it do additional damage. I like being able to weave fireballs into my rotation without it being too long of a cast time. So I think the Tinder buff is really, really fun. Every once in a while, you get the Fast Fireball, which can generate heating up for you, and then you can easily turn that into a power proc. So you can do some significant damage. Controlled Burn is really, really insane. If you're playing a heavy mastery build and you have your Combust up and you are rolling procs and getting your Ignite really strong, Controlled Burn is just insane, especially with that Combustion, because your mastery is going to be so high. Your Ignite's going to tick out super fast and you're going to be able to just destroy people. The thing is, that's another one of those, it's not really super stars aligned, but it's kind of stars aligned. So if I'm going to mess around with any of my talents, I basically always play Temporal Shield as a mage. Very, very rare exceptions. If I'm never being targeted or I cannot die to a certain composition, maybe I'll switch it out for more damage or more utility, but I basically always play it. I just like it. It feels very safe being able to Temporal Shield. Tinder, like I said, like it. Controlled Burn, the ones I mess around with. Sometimes I go Kleptomania if I'm playing against a Druid. Sometimes I'll play Prismatic Cloak as a wizard defense. Sometimes I'll play Netherwind Armor if I'm being trained by melee. But you can also swap it out for Greater Pyro, which I think is really fun in World PvP, RBGs, could be good in Island Expeditions, could be good in just Battlegrounds, you know what I mean? You can get those big, hard-hitting Pyroblasts off from range. You can basically just sit back and continuously spam Greater Pyros if you want, and it's going to do significantly more than 1 damage in PvP. In terms of burst, FireMage is relatively simple, okay? Basically, what you want to do is you want to be generating as many procs as possible, because that's where most of your damage is going to be coming from. Spamming out fireballs isn't really that good of damage. Sometimes if you spam out the fireballs, what you want to be doing is building up this hot streak, okay? You always want to be getting up this heating up proc, and then with that, you either want to Phoenix Flames or you want to Fire Blast, okay? And with that, then you can generate a Pyro, you can shoot that out, and then look, you generate another heating up, so you can use another Phoenix Flames, and you can get another Pyro out. And then once that happens, let's go for RNG. You know, get the Fireball, it didn't land. Fortunately, every time you Fireball, you build up a stacking debuff, so your crit gets higher. So eventually you will get a crit Fireball for sure. And then you get the heating up, you can use your, your Phoenix Flames or your Fire Blast to get out some consistent damage once again. Your other burst windows are going to be, that's basically the consistent damage of a Fire Mage. Your other burst windows are going to be, your Meteor. You can drop that on one target preferably because it's going to do extra damage. Multiple targets if you want to just get out lots of spread pressure, but it's not going to be as effective or as scary. Keep in mind as well when I was talking about like using Fireball to build up your heating up procs so you can get your Power Blast procs. If you're kiting and running around, you could also use Scorch, but you don't get that added benefit of, see, I got a heating up proc there. I actually got 2 crits, which is kind of lucky. I have pretty decent crit here, but that doesn't happen that often, especially early when we're not going to have as much crit. But it's good if you need to like move around, trying to get in a better position to get polymorphs off, or you're just kiting. Typically, I'll show you an example. When you have a heating up proc like this, you don't want to hard cast a Fireball or a Scorch because you're essentially wasting it. You know what I mean? You generally want to get the heating up, one heating up with a Scorch or a Fireball, and then you can use a Fire Blast or Phoenix Flames to get that power proc. Now, what I find important as well is I actually think Fire Blasts are much more valuable than Phoenix Flames. So if I'm, I get a random crit with my Scorch, then I generally like to use a Phoenix Flames. The reason for that is Phoenix Flames breaks crowd control, so if I'm just doing consistent damage, I'd rather dump my Phoenix Flames because I'm not going to get as much use out of them, when I finally do land a polymorph on the healer. You don't want to be out of Fire Blasts because Fire Blast doesn't break crowd control. You'd rather, not have the Phoenix Flames available, and especially if they're near their healer, if that makes sense. So imagine a polymorph's here, your target's there. If you use the Phoenix Flames, breaks their crowd control, whereas with the Fire Blast, it does not. That's why I think it's a little bit more valuable. Now, one thing I want to talk about as well with the Scorch, keep in mind you don't get that extra benefit of like pretty much guaranteeing yourself a crit eventually. With Fireball, you will get a crit eventually because of this buff, the Enhanced Pyrotechnic. So something else to keep in mind. FireMage is a lot about control, getting polymorphs, getting Ring of Frost on the healer, so you can get your damage out, using Counterspell, using your Dragon's Breath to just be as annoying as possible. I really feel like Fire is primarily about CC, and then you just get the good, consistent damage out with your procs and stuff like that. Talking about Combust a little bit, Combust is really, really strong. It's insane. So if you can, it's fun to have like a heating up proc or a full pyro proc, and then you can combust, and you can pyro, Phoenix Flames, pyro, Fire Blast, pyro, Phoenix Flames, pyro, Fire Blast, pyro, Phoenix Flames, pyro. So you kind of get the idea, and now you can pyro again. If you have all your procs generate, if you have all your procs and you have a combustion, you can get a lot of pyros out. If you find a good opportunity for yourself to get some casted damage out and you have combustion, unless you have Tinder up, it's really valuable to just use Scorch instead to generate pyros, because pyros are going to be how you do the most damage. So you don't want to ever just be there with your combust spamming out the long fireballs. It's a waste of damage. Like I said, with Tinder it's good, but it's preferred to just get the Scorches out. So Scorch, Fire Blast, Pyro, Scorch, Phoenix Flames, Pyro, you know what I mean? And that's how you're going to be able to get those procs rolling even faster. Compositions. Anyways, I hope that was a lot. I hope it wasn't too complicated for you guys. If you have questions about the damage rotation or anything like that, I don't think I do it perfect, but I think that's the way I've found to do the most damage possible as a Fire Mage. And in Legion, not until the end I really played Fire a lot and kind of got more used to it. Now I feel like I'm very comfortable on the Fire Mage. It does take a little while, on learning how to save your damage for when you do get the crowd control, not wasting your procs, because, you know, it's very easy to be like, oh, all right, let's get the consistent damage out. Phoenix Flames, Fire Blast, you know, Phoenix Flames, Fire Blast, you know, boom, boom, look at me, I'm getting so many procs out. And then, okay, I'm going for a Polymorph now, Dragon's Breath. All right, nice, I got the ring. Full ring, and then you kind of just run out of damage, you know what I mean? Oh, now I have no Phoenix Flames, and I have no Fire Blast. Okay, I guess I'll just hard cast some Fireballs and hopefully get a proc. Oh, I didn't get any, I didn't do any damage, you know what I mean? Kind of have to save the procs so you can get those Fire Blasts out when you do finally land that significant CC. Yeah. Now we could talk about rotation. Or no, we just talked about rotation for like 20 minutes. We could talk about comps. Okay, so compositions that I think are good for the FireMage. I like playing with Paladin a lot. I think Paladin FireMage is really, really good because you have the Paladin who can push in with the Hammer of Justice. So he gets the Hammer of Justice, stuns the target, and out of that stun, that is your opportunity. You land a Polymorph, you land a Ring of Frost, and you're a happy guy because, you know, maybe you're not playing with a rogue. That's why Warrior can be good. You can play Warrior FireMage Paladin. Your Warrior's doing good consistent damage, or your Feral's doing good consistent damage, or your Assassination Rogue is doing really good consistent damage, which is important for a FireMage. You need someone that has really, really good damage, you know, building pressure for you while you're just harassing the healer and getting out a little bit of consistent damage. So that's, I think, it works really, really well with a Paladin in particular. I could see it working decently with a Druid, but I really feel like with how strong Frost is, Fire really is only going to work well with a Paladin, and it might not even be better, to be honest with you. If you like right now it seems like Frost is probably the most powerful spec, but I really enjoy playing Fire, and like I said, I think it is strong when you play the Paladin. You have an Assassination Rogue or an Outlaw Rogue, or, you know, a Warrior in particular on your team, you know, really generating pressure, and you have the Paladin to help you land the crowd control. You know, you land a Polymorph on the healer as an example, and your Paladin's standing by with the Fist of Justice. Are you going to get the repoly? No, I got interrupted. Hammer of Justice. Okay, now I get to poly out of that. There's my DR poly. There's my triple DR poly. Okay, there's my Dragon's Breath, you know what I mean? You get the long crowd control chains out while doing your consistent damage once you get your proc management down, and I think it becomes really, really strong. So if you guys are pyromaniacs, you can try it out. Like I said, I like Fire. I'm primarily probably going to be playing Frost because I don't think Fire is great in stuff like. I personally don't think Fire is great in stuff like you know, RBGs. It's not nearly gonna. It doesn't have the same utility that a Frost Mage has with all the AOE snares and roots and stuff like that. It's primarily just going to be a 3 spec for me at least. But if you guys like it, maybe you guys can teach me a thing or two a little bit later on. But yeah, that's kind of going to be the basic FireMage guide. Hope you guys enjoyed. If you guys have any questions, like I said, feel free to ask. I also made a Frost Mage guide you can check out. And yeah, thank you very much for tuning in. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Give it a like if you like it, and stay tuned to the channel for more comprehensive guides as the expansion moves forward. Thanks, everyone.